Welcome to the World Football Summit podcast, the show for football industry leaders who want to stay ahead of the game. We bring you the latest insights, trends, and stories from the experts driving innovation and progress in sports business worldwide. Join us as we dive deep into the ideas and initiatives transforming the world of football. From sustainability and innovation to player development, fan engagement, and everything in between. Our goal is to unite the global football industry and drive positive change and progress. Welcome to another episode of the World Football Summit podcast. I'm your host, Jaime, CMO at World Football Summit. I often feel like the role of the referee in the industry is a bit overlooked, although it is a crucial element to guarantee a flow of the game. Today, we welcome Ali Djedid to the show, who's a professional referee in France. Ali is going to help us understand the day-to-day of being a referee, how he copes with mental pressure, and even the commercial opportunities for the profession. Make sure you stick around. Before we go into it though, don't forget to subscribe and rate the podcast on your platform of choice and share it with your industry colleagues. You can also subscribe to our newsletter, where every week we send updates, trends, and everything that goes on at our events. You can find the link in the show. We're a couple of months away from WFS Europe in Sevilla, taking place on September 18th and 19th. Are you gonna miss it? Tickets are available on our website, so make sure you head over there right after the episode. And now, let's welcome Ali Djedid to the show. Well, Ali, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the World Football Summit podcast. And I think this is a different type of conversation, but as I said in the intro, I really want to understand the role of the referee in the industry. So it's great to have you here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jaime, for the invitation. It's really a pleasure for me to shed some light, into the referee's role. We are certainly pretty much part of the game, and we don't hear that much about the inside. So I'm really happy to give you a little bit of my life as a professional soccer referee.
And, this question is particularly meaningful for me, which I ask every guest, which is, why did you decide to become a referee, to pursue a career in football? It intrigues me.
Yeah, I think as all the referees, we are passionate about the game itself, passionate about soccer, passionate about the emotion it gives. I started, as a young player, passionate about football, started 6 years old, playing soccer with friends, playing soccer in club. And I think it's been through all my life, the soccer journey. And, starting the age of 16, I think I really started to think about how I can be part of this game, but in a different way. And being a referee has been, for me, a test. And this test has been very conclusive. And I've been happy, to embrace that role of referee. Still being part of my passion, which is soccer, still, triggering some new skills, learnings, and being at the middle of this game.
Okay, fantastic. And how does a day-to-day of a referee look like?
Look, so my journey so far has been quite long. So I started 16 years old. I'm now 34 years old, and I'm professional soccer referee. I've been climbing through the ladder of, referees. It's been a long journey to get somehow to the top in a certain way, right? So hurdles, obstacles, bad things, bad moments, but of course a lot of joy, a lot of learning. And to get there, and I'm really happy and passionate about what I do on a daily basis. Now, answering your question about the professional referee life, basically, if you look at from a week setup, it started from the appointment to the next game. And let's say, it's day plus 7, 7 days before that you're going to referee those teams. And this is where starts you weekly, planning to get at the top to the game. And basically, it's a mix of physical training, for sure, 5 to 6 sessions to get to the game. So that's more or less, one training a day. It starts also with tactical learning about the teams we're going to referee. We have a platform that we use on a daily basis with full access to the worldwide championships. So we can look, at the players, their career, and how they've been, playing for the last games, last years, what's their career. So we can learn a lot about the players. And of course, the context itself of the game plays a big role. How the dynamics of the teams are. It's really important to be at the top as refereeing. So yeah, that's the second part, of the preparation. And I think the third part is, about the logistics also, to get into the city where the games happens. Contrary to the players, we are the owner of our own logistics to get there. So it means, arranging travels, trains, flights, hotels, whatever have you. And it can be quite time consuming in a certain way, even though we have some habits. So yeah, three major points, to get to the game.
Well, it's interesting. I haven't thought about that, but you guys are or need to be knowledgeable about the tactics of the game, just to see how each team plays, or each player performs, or what they're going to do, what they're not going to do. Never thought about that. And I guess I'm thinking about the skills. No, you said, so obviously you need to know about football. You also said something there about, the context. So you have to have some sort of empathy, I would assume. Planning capabilities, even if it's, just all the terms of logistics. What other, I don't know, what skills would you highlight a referee needs to have?
Yeah. So basically, in terms of skills, it's very much looking into how we cope with pressure. When you look at a soccer game environment, you're basically talking about high-profile players. For some of them, they are very high-profile players, depending on the games, right? You are referring. Of course, you're talking about the staff. You're talking about all the people working around the players and helping them to be successful on the pitch. You're talking about also broadcasting. You're talking about the public itself in the stadium that is looking for emotions, that is looking for, extraordinary things in a certain way, right? And that's where they come from. And that's also how you need to, in a certain way, being aware of that, coping with that, pressure on the game. But still at the same time being very much focused on the decision making you need to do on the pitch, which is completely out of all this soccer world, is really making a decision of a penalty, non-penalty, red card, non-red card, a yellow card or no, depending on what's the time of the game. Is it the beginning of the game? Is it the end of the game? How are you going to, handle that from a management perspective? So it has a lot of complexity. Coping with pressure is certainly the first point. The second one, if we look a little bit more closer into the pitch itself, and how do we, manage the players, 11 players playing against 11 players, with, of course, the ultimate goal of scoring one goal more than the other, right? So we know that's the rule of the soccer. It's really how you're going to make all those players going through the game journey from the very beginning to the end, with, of course, the right spirit, with, of course, the competitiveness that we know about, and while delivering a certain way the spectacle, the skills they have to the public, and while, being into the law of games, which is why we are there, right? To make sure that the law of games, they comply with the law of games. And I think, that gives a particular way to manage people in a certain way, because we're talking about people, we're talking about human beings, even though they are special human beings, I can believe. Still, that's what come at the end. On top of management, also, I think the third skills is really how do you technically make sure that you make the good decision. And that set of skills is, there is a lot of skills into your toolbox in a certain way, to make sure that at the end, are you making what I call the right decision? It's always a tricky side of it, because, of course, when you're making what we call the major decision, you basically you basically disadvantage a team or another one, but this is not something we need to look at. We're just looking at how can we make the right technical decision. On top of that, I would add also sometimes making the right decision is also making a fair decision, which is a little bit different from technically being perfect. Making the fair decision is exactly taking into a context what we were previously talking about. But the staff is waiting. What are the players awaiting in that specific moment of the game? What the public expect? Sending off a player at the end of the game, it's probably from a technical standpoint the right decision. Is it a fair one? Question mark. And I think that's the third skills. It's really broad. It's really large. It comes with experience, with practicing. It comes with a lot of games being refereed in a long career.
Well, at the end of the day, I would sum it up in you really need to be very good at soft skills. At the end of the day, it's you have to balance so many things, and we're going to go into the pressure side of things, if you would, a little bit into more detail because it does interest me. For that though, one of the things you mentioned at the beginning is that you were, I guess, training 5 to 6 days, and I'm genuinely curious about that. Because I'm, what's your training regimen look like? I mean, how do you prepare physically for a game?
So we have physical trainers into the French referee department. We are followed up by technologies, of course. We do have a smartwatch where we record all our physical training session that we report out to our managers. So this is how the things are organized. If we go back to that week schedule. I like the week schedule because that's, the game who defines how we're going to train, right? In a certain way, because sometimes we had different roles. I'm a central referee, so I do have the whistle, but I can be also a fourth referee. I can be a VAR. Also, it really depends on how you're going to be appointed. We're talking about 5 to 6 physical session. One is pretty much into aerobic training. Volume, going for 10 kilometer run, just to decompress, having, another side of you. It goes with 2 muscular strengthening session in the week also. The legs, the upper body, depending on your needs. It comes also with high intensity training. That's day -3 to the game. Where you're really going high into the volume and the intensity of your training, and it comes day -1, day -2. It comes with the speed, agility, and quickness session where you make sure that your legs are ready for the next the next game in a certain way. While that. I think key figures, a referee makes more or less 170 to 200 decisions per game. Decision or non-decision, which means that if he decides not to decide, he's in a certain way deciding, right? And we run approximately 10 to 12 kilometers per game, right? So that's if you're gonna have a comparison, that's more or less into a midfielder volume of run into a game, right? So that's why we need physically to be very much trained and alert in order to be successful on the pitch.
Yeah, because I mean, you need to be, I guess, fit in order to have a clear mind to make those decisions or no decisions. And wow, you do have a complete training regime. You have your strength training, you have your high intensity, you have your long distance running. So I mean, at the end, it's a very complete program, which does make sense because at the end of the day, you have to be running around and chasing all these fast players. And so you better be fit, no? But as we were saying, and you alluded to this before, the context plays so much into what a game is. So you have your players, you have your stadium, you have the press, you have the broadcasters, you have everybody. Everybody is looking into a game, right? So not only is what the teams are playing for that it's adding pressure, it's everything else that goes around it. No? So I guess I'm curious how, when it comes to a game, how do you prepare mentally? How do you focus? How do you really get ready to either like abstract yourself from everything or just be like completely aware but understanding of everything that goes on?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think mental preparation is taking a big part of the overall preparation of a game. As you mentioned, the context, it's getting a little, more and more year after year, a high pressure context, especially knowing how this game gives emotion to people and how the media and the broadcaster are making quite a lot of noise around each and every game, each and every skills that the player are showing. I do have a mental trainer that I'm following on a weekly basis that helps me first to release that pressure that you can feel coming by the few days before the game first. Also, looking at how we can, from a mental standpoint, being very much into what you have to do on the pitch, eluding the context. So helping to be more focused, helping to improve your toolbox and making sure that within your toolbox, you have some way out when you do have some tricky situations, coping with that pressure that we were talking about, just being there to listen, help, and advise with an outside side of the things, right? My mental trainer is, following athletes that are going to the Olympics, for instance, now in Paris in the next couple of weeks. He has no soccer player, he has no referees, so he doesn't know that much about soccer. And that's, for me, wonderful because it gives a different perspective to the things, and it helps you to really focus on what you have to deliver at the end of the day. And this training has been a game changer in the last couple of months and years for me, because as you climb to the ladder, the pressure is getting high, right? And Gael really helped me to get into that level of confidence, of trust into myself, but also of awareness of what needs to be done on the pitch.
Okay, interesting. I mean, at the end of the day, I like that. You really have to be aware, but also build confidence in what you're doing. So you really have to have that sense. I guess, is there any moment, particular story that you recall where you were able to actually handle so much pressure? What happened? I mean, just curious,
Yeah. This was back September 2023. I was fourth official into Ligue 1 championship game, Lille playing against Reims, and very few seconds after the whistle, my colleague, the central referee, injured and couldn't be the referee for the full game. So I had to replace him right on the pitch, very few seconds after the game started. 35,000 to 40,000 people in the stadium, waiting for the game to restart and looking at me, and I think that's been probably the highest pressure time in my referee life, because you're coming into a game to play a role, and this changed in a matter of seconds, right? And it happens to players, some players get injured and they need to get replaced. That's fine. That's exactly the same for referee, right? And I had to referee Lille against Reims, 95 minutes with different, situation that needs to be handled with the pressure coming of it, because we're talking about top 10 Ligue 1 teams playing for Europe, at that time also. That was probably one of the best time of my referee life, but it was also coming with high pressure, but a lot of fun, definitely.
I guess I'm wondering, because I don't know why, but being a referee is something that is not very well perceived, let's say. There's a lot of bad perceptions around referees, but I don't know if that's the worst thing about being the referee, or is there something else? What's the most challenging thing about the role?
I think, the perception of the role is changing, definitely. And I can certainly, talk about that. In the very beginning, we were looked at, somehow the bad guy, bad cop, just there to make decision with authority. And I think it's the most exciting part of my job, is using soft skills, management skills to help getting, into relationship with the players in order to get to the end of the game. Coming back, to your question, is really for me. I think there is no one piece, of this that makes complex or hard to do that job. It's more about a different set of piece that might make this job complex, and I think it's it's complex for sure, but it gives a lot of development areas for a human being, right? Being able to, again, make decisions, cope with the pressure, manage people, learn about tactics, learn about strategy, learn about soft skills, learn about making mistakes, and how do you, get back from those mistakes. Learning about yourself, learning about your family, learning about the ecosystem, the soccer ecosystem itself. It's an industry. And I think there is so much learning ways that I can't believe that there is a bad side of the things, even though they are on a daily basis, and that's for sure. But I'm very much into what's the joy that this games and this function brings to me.
Good stuff. But as you know, Ali, I mean, and I'm really interested in this mental piece, and I've had, for example, I'm remembering a conversation with Agustina Giovanni. She's now a mental performance coach at BFC in the United States. No, so that to me is a very interesting piece that needs to get more awareness in the industry. So that's why I was very interested in having that conversation. But as you know, this is a business podcast, no? And I've always wondered, when you look at a game, the referee probably gets, if not more, at least the same degree of visibility as a player. And I'm talking about star players. And I'm not talking about your regular, non-star players. Let's leave it at that, no? But I guess I wonder, why is it that referees do not get, I wouldn't say the same, because obviously the impact of a star player is much broader, but at least there should be some commercial opportunities that arise for referees, right? Why isn't that the case?
Good question. And I see that also as a business opportunity. As you know, I'm also working as a head of technical service into pharmaceutical company. I do have, a job on top of my soccer referee life. Certainly it's about business opportunity. I think it's also evolving, to be honest and frank. I think, the big institution like FIFA, UEFA, or, the local referees, departments and committees are really making evolution on that, making sure that, the referees can explain the decision after the game. For instance, if they've been quite a tricky situation into the game, talking, getting interviews also with the big broadcaster to follow what would be a referee life on a daily basis. I think it's our role, and that's why today I'm happy to talk to you and happy to have that opportunity. I think the perception of the role has changed, needs to change, definitely. And that's why, talking about what we do, talking about the skills we need to have, talking about the organization, talking about ourselves as human beings first, being part of that ecosystem is a first step to open doors to business opportunities, right? We do have a value. We certainly valued into the labor market in a certain way, because when you come into the labor market with the skills of a referee, you certainly stand out from the other candidates, because we know very much that in the regular labor market today, coping with pressure, making right decision, fast decision, being able to handle complexity, it's something that is part of any professional journey, in the different industry. And I do work in the pharma industry, and that's definitely the case. Right. So I think the first step is really to communicate. The second step, I'm sure that the image of referee is changing, and we've been looking at the communication campaign in that, that is coming for the upcoming, competition. And we saw that referees is something that is, looked a little bit more closely by the sponsors, looked a little bit more closely, by the ecosystem itself. It's just the beginning.
And okay, I get that. Luckily, the perception is changing, but what else needs to be done? I mean, what changes would you like to see, to kind of like complete that change in perception for referees from a commercial standpoint, eh?
Yeah. From a commercial standpoint, I think, what would be great is, to get those referees talking into the different panels about the soccer ecosystem. And when I look, at the different, organization making, panels, discussions, where we talk about soccer, I never see referees invited. I never see, referees invited, basically. And I think that's where having that place will definitely, for us make sure that we are part of the game on the pitch, but also outside of the pitch, right? Give the referee some space to talk. Give the referee some space to talk, and give them the opportunity to network, to interact, to discuss, to meet with the key industry players. And I'm sure you will see that you have smart people in there, people able to have nice discussion about business opportunity and leveraging their skills, their knowledge into the next industry trend.
No, I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, it just makes all the sense in the world to see the referees be an active part of the ecosystem, no? They're so crucial to the game. I guess they should have their say in the development of what happens off the pitch, as you just said, no? In a world of technology, though, we cannot avoid that conversation. So how do you see technology, and especially with all the changes we're seeing now, how is that going to impact? How is it going to make the role evolve?
Yeah, it's a new way of refereeing. Definitely a new way of refereeing. I think, if we're talking about technologies, I think we're talking about VAR and how, the video assistant referee systems help us on the pitch to make the right decision, right? If we look into that technology, as each and every technology in each and every industry, it requires time to adopt the tool, to make sure that each and every one of the stakeholders in that ecosystem understand the tools. It requires, of course, internally for the referee department, processes that needs to be put in place, that needs to be aligned between and amongst the referee word in a certain way, to give to the soccer, a sense of alignment, a sense of unicity in making the decision, right? The soccer in Latin America is probably different than in mainland Europe, than in Africa, right? The system itself is the same. The way we use it is different because the process you put in place to get there, it's probably a little bit different, right? That makes the beauty of it. Now, that technology is now there. It needs to be better utilized. It needs to be uniformized, to make sure that each and everyone has the same level of understanding and can expect the same level of decision in two different games, having more or less the same situation happening, right? That creates a sense of, alignment. On the other way, that's the beauty of that game also. That's why it gives so much emotion. It's the VAR system has been put in place to avoid what we call the big obvious mistakes, right? It's not there to solve each and every appreciation mistake. It's there to avoid, what we had in World Cup, Uruguay against Ghana. Those big things where there is a situation, the ball has crossed the line, and we're talking about a qualification into the semi-final of the World Cup, right? This is where the technologies plays a key role. For the rest, it will always be a matter of interpretation, a matter of a different angle looking at that decision. So technology is there to help for the big, obvious mistakes. It won't solve everything. It won't solve all the decision. It won't avoid debates after games. Definitely not, because this game is giving too much emotion, and I think VAR can't solve that level of emotion for sure.
I couldn't agree more with what you just said. I think football, despite all the disruption in the world that it can face from all angles, right? Not only the referee position, but also the playing and the coaching styles and even the management or the back office, whatever. No, it's going to be impacted by technology, but there's something that technology probably can't replace, which is emotion. It's the stories, it's the memories that football create, no? And that's something that we need to keep in mind. So, but I guess with that in mind, how do you see the role of the referee evolving in I don't know, 5-10 years?
Yeah. So what's obvious today into this technology-wise refereeing side of things is we still need to make conscious decision on the pitch first. That's really a strong point. We have the capabilities, we have the skills, we have the toolbox, we have the physical training, we have the mental training. So we have a set of skills that enable us to make the right decision on the pitch first without using technologies again. And I think that remains the beauty of that function, right? If this is taken out from us as a referee, we probably won't see the same emotion, the same learning curve into that role. And I think this should and has to remain for the 10, 15 years upward, looking at the referee role. And that's exactly the message that the referee departments are giving in France for sure. And I'm pretty sure all over the world, we still have to make decisions consciously on the pitch, according to our feelings, according to our tactics, according to our physical angle, according to what we feel on the pitch, and making the fair decision that is expected by the players in that particular moment of the game, of the specific game, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, the live action. I think that's where, I mean, you can't substitute that, right? So you can't make that up. Things happen. The context is going to make things different. So that you're never going to lose. And Ali.
And I think, that's where it should, and it has triggered this discussion, with the players, right? We have those discussions with the players. You probably don't see them on TV, but we have those discussions with the players. Just before getting into the pitch, at the halftime, at the end of the game, meeting them, a few weeks later for another game. Oh, you remember we talking about that decision? What has been the referee department decision on that one? Explain me. Please let me know. We have a lot of players that are curious to know how is our decision-making process is happening, and that makes the beauty also of that game. This is what we call this is the off-pitch, off-recorded discussion that we are having with staff, with players, and it's absolutely magic because we are not always agree, but that's fine. We respect ourselves. We respect ourselves in our role. We make sure that each and everyone plays his own role, and that's fine. They are players. We are referees. We have objectives to meet. They have objectives to meet. That's absolutely fine. Still, we have to be together for 95 minutes.
You agree to disagree at the end of the day, no? And actually, I'm going to take what you just said a step further, which is, and I've always wondered, I'm a marketing guy, and what I've seen that is very popular, especially in the States, where they're kind of a little bit ahead of the game in this, is, for example, the NFL, the referee explains to the entire stadium and to the entire world, basically, the decision they've made, and this is something you don't see in football. I think, and with all these trends of fans wanting to get behind the scenes action as close to the game as possible, I think this is one of the key elements, and this is an awesome opportunity for football. Being able to create content around the decisions that the referee is making real time, and not only how he's talking to the players, they do this in rugby as well, right? I mean, they do this across sports. So I think that's eventually it will come. No, I don't know your thoughts about that.
Yeah, no, and it happens. So there is some tests that are ongoing. Actually, it happens a year ago into Under-20 World Cup in Indonesia, where the FIFA tested that ability for the referee to explain after a VAR call the decision that he's going to make: penalty, non-penalty, red card, non-red card, goal, no goal, right? So there've been at a worldwide level some tests. At a local level, speaking about France, starting next season, there are some processes that are put in place right now in order to communicate after a VAR call a decision that is made by the referees, right? So things again are changing in there, step by step, definitely, but it's changing, and we are definitely getting into what you just said, creating content out of a decision, communicating. It's about transparency, it's about communication, it's about also a matter of leadership. Because being able to explain your decision to the world, to the stadium, to the staff, to the players, live after making a mistake, most probably this is a huge leadership call, right? And a leadership opportunity. And I think that's where, looking at the role of the referee, with that disruption of technologies, that's where we can look at, referee being able to, reinvent somehow themselves in terms of leadership skills. And we're getting into a high level of leadership skills, I guess.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a good opportunity to actually give visibility to the different things that goes on within a referee's mind, no? And all the different elements, and there's so many lessons to learn. So if you give visibility to that, probably you're gonna get a great appreciation for the role itself, no? So Ali, I'm curious, what advice would you give to someone who's aspiring to become a professional referee? I don't know if you can encourage them with some, what's the most rewarding thing about being a referee? I don't know, and wherever you want to take
it. I would pick as the first one, love this game. Love this game, because if you love this game, if you're passionate about this game, learning journey will come for sure. Trust yourself. Definitely trust yourself. You will, progress. You will do mistakes. You will do right calls also. So be confident on yourself. Just go along the journey and take it as a development journey, as a learning journey. Be able, to question yourself, after a game in order to be better for the next game. If you have that ability to question yourself for a better yourself somehow, you will definitely get there. And I think as a third point is, be open, because this is a long journey, but be open. It gives a lot of opportunities. We've talked about development opportunity. We've talked about business opportunity. We've talked about physical training and fitness. We've talked about mental preparation. We've talked about so many things that is lifetime learning.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not very different than being a sports business professional, which is you love the game. You have to be open-minded because there's a lot of change coming. There's a lot of opportunity. It goes back to what we were mentioning before. It makes all the sense in the world that the referees are being involved in the entire ecosystem because at the end of the day, the traits are very, very similar. They have to have leadership skills, soft skills. You have to be knowledgeable of what's going around on the pitch, off the pitch. I mean, what's different from a sport business professional, which I think this is why this conversation is meaningful in the podcast and in the industry, So I guess I want to shift now to a more, let's say, call it relaxed part of the conversation. Who do you believe has been the best referee in the game, or someone that you believe is a good example? Maybe not the best, but a good example. And why? Why were they so special based on what we discussed today?
Difficult question, right? Of course, when we think about referees, the normal football players, we talk about Pierluigi Collina, right? Leadership, ability to cope with adversity at the big level, decision making, big games in the world, charisma. That would probably, be one of the examples. I think there are so many others referees, and I won't name them because that's the beauty of that function. You basically learn from each and everyone. They all have their skills. They all have their specificities. They all have the different way to handle the same situation. That's the beauty of that function. And I think for us, learning as young referees, learning how they cope with the different decision on the pitch, that's where you're building up your own toolbox, right? If you try and do the same like another referee, you're probably going to do a big mistake, because we are human beings. We are all different per nature. We all have a different life setting. And at the end of the day, you can't copy paste things, decision making. This is not going to happen. You can inspire yourself. You can learn from it. You can try to do it your own way, but copy pasting is definitely not the right approach to make yourself successful in that role.
Mm-hmm. So you have to be yourself. Interesting. So in that regard, if you look back in history, or maybe the future, who knows, take us wherever we want, but what game would you like to officiate, or would you have liked to officiate? Now imagine there's no boundaries here. You could choose any game you want.
I would probably go for basketball. Basketball, I see, and I'm looking back, from a worldwide perspective. I know basketball in the Americas and the United States specifically, it's within the top games, right? Top sports that the people are watching. It's very much spectacular. It's very much physical intense. It's very much into small space, high density of players, physical condition that is pretty much high, with muscles and big boys, playing against each other. Probably now, 20, 30,000 people in stadium watching the game. So, compared to probably a Liga Championship game, right? Not that far away from. And I think, that would be an excitement for me, because I really like that intensity in the game, coping with that intensity, and definitely the space of a basketball, pitch is pretty much smaller than a soccer one. So the decision making or non-decision making process, it's probably close to what we do in soccer, with the time to decision that might even be reduced more than in soccer. And that's where you need to be intellectually alert to really make that decision. And I would love, even though I don't know anything about the rules of basketball, to be honest.
Yeah, but you know what? If Wembanyama becomes what everybody expects him to be, and France has amazing potential in basketball as well as in football, that could be a very, I mean, if they reach, for example, imagine an Olympics final, that would be amazing. That just to get that opportunity, I mean, even in these, imagine a game against, the Americans in the Olympics now, that would be great. Good example. Let's take it back to football. As you know, one of our claims in World Football Summit is the football we want and the football we need. And this is kind of a call to the industry to become more professional at the end of the day. So if I were to ask you to define in, very quickly, Ali, like in 1-2 sentences, not more than that, the football you want or the football you need, how would you do it?
Local football, diverse football. We see different sets of soccer rising up in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia, in South America. I think, the next trend, and we see the next World Cup coming into Spain, Morocco, Portugal. Then we have Saudi in 2034. So it's 10 years from now. But it's a different set of football, and that diversity, that inclusion of the different set of football, it's really what I would like to see. We all come together around, that ball, soccer ball.
Yeah, I like that diversity. And at the end of the day, I mean, wisdom of the crowds, no? As they say, the more diverse, the more wisdom, the better the industry, no? So I agree with that. Ali, this has been a fantastic conversation, very fun, very relevant, I think, to the industry. I don't know if there's, one other message that, that you want to share with the audience about what we've talked about today.
I've been, I'm happy, honored to have taken that conversation to a very much interesting level, diving into our professional soccer referee life, making also the link of our life, outside soccer, as human being. We don't know that much about referees, but it's changing. I'm happy having, contributing to a little piece to that. Referee is a wonderful journey. It's a wonderful journey where you learn about yourself, you learn about the others, you learn about new skills, you learn about an industry, you learn and you learn and you learn. And I think that's, for me, the skills that we need to have all as human beings. Open to learn. Yeah, absolutely. Because this is, this is where, you meet people, you meet diversity, you meet different point of view, you meet different angles, different visions, and that's where we connect. We are human beings. We want to connect, thanks to soccer, thanks to whatever it is in life. Soccer gives that opportunity. The industry soccer gives that opportunity. As Steve Jobs says, stay hungry, stay foolish. I would definitely follow that. I think is a wonderful learning journey. So yeah,
that's a beautiful word, and that's what I was going to say. Continuous learning, enjoy the journey. It's not a destination; it's a mindset. No. So you know, I really like that. Ali, thank you so much for this conversation. Hopefully, we'll see good opportunities arise for referees in the future, and let's see how that evolves. And looking forward to seeing that happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Jaime. Thank you, Jaime, for your time, and looking forward for the upcoming innovation in sport industry, in soccer industry, and referee being part of this game. And thank you again, and talk to you soon.
And there you have them, Ali Djedid. That was a fun conversation, and I think, as I said, very relevant to what the industry needs today. Some main takeaways. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know if you knew this, probably you did, but the amount of soft skills that, you know, a referee needs to have is just amazing. You know, think about it. They have to manage pressure. They have to be leaders. They have to show a lot of empathy with players and the context and understand the pressure of the game and everything that goes around it. But there's some interesting skills that they also need. You know, they need to know about the game. They need to know how to plan effectively for their matches. I mean, or their training regime. I mean, it's very complete. No, so there's really a lot of that goes on into becoming a referee. But at the end of the day, one of the things that I like most is, you know, referees love the game. They have to be open-minded. You know, as we discussed, isn't that what any sports business professional is all about? Being, you know, passionate for the game, for helping the industry grow. So at the end of the day, doesn't it make sense to have referees be part of the conversation to drive the industry forward? You know, I think it does make sense, right? Anyway, good thing is the perception is changing. And I think in the future, there's going to be more commercial opportunities for referees. I think there's going to be a lot of content around the role of the referee that's going to come up. You know, as we said, if behind the scenes is the norm or is becoming the thing from a sports marketing perspective, you know, I think referees are in a unique position to tell unique stories. And at the end of the day, this is football. It's about the unique stories, the emotions, the memories, and a lot of them are tied to referees, right? So I just think there's a lot of opportunity there. No, I really liked, just to finish off, the way he defined the industry. I think we need a diverse ecosystem. And that's why I think it makes sense to have this conversation on this podcast, no? And more diversity leads to more knowledge, and more knowledge leads to growth. So, you know, that is, I think, the last thing that I want to share with you guys, no? So I don't know if there's anything else that stood out to you. If so, as always, reach out on social media. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe, to rate the podcast on your platform of choice, to share it with your industry colleagues. And, you know, I want to thank you for tuning into this episode of the World Football Summit podcast. I really do hope you enjoyed it and that you learned something new. And nothing else from my side. Have a great rest of your day, and we hope to see you next time.